Good evening and welcome. Today is February the 18th, and I'd like to give a warm welcome to all you that found my live stream. It is called Fight CPS and Stop Taking Your Children. I'm your host, Bob Pace, and I give a warm welcome to all you that have been fighting CPS or had your children taken by CPS. I know it's a very scary thing, a very unpleasant thing. But I'm so glad that you found me fighting CPS on Facebook. There are rooms on Facebook about fighting CPS. 7 of them are connected. And I broadcast on YouTube using the StreamYard application. I'm on twice a day, 7 days a week. That's 14 live streams. Now I come on at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time in the morning on the west coast of California. Then I come on again in the evening at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the west coast of California. So that's twice a day you'll find me. And I've been doing this for the last 16 months, since October 2023. I've talked to over 900 people, not only from the United States, from around the world, since this is a worldwide live stream. I've talked to Bangladesh, Indonesia, India, Saudi Arabia, Libya, and then over to the continent of Africa, where I've talked to Liberia, and then Sudan, and then down to Rwanda, down to Mozambique, and then the 4 provinces in South Africa. Then up to Europe, England, Scotland, Wales, and also Denmark and Sweden. Across the pond in North America, I've talked to Canada and 4 of its provinces. And I've talked to the United States, every one of the states. Someone has called in, or maybe 2 or 3 people called in, of the troubles they're having with CPS. I've also talked to the District of Columbia. And down south of the border, I've talked to Mexico, and then down in South America, Grenada. Then across the Pacific, I've talked to New Zealand, and then Australia, 2 of the states in Australia. So it's a worldwide issue with CPS. I'm not saying all CPS is bad, but the ones I encountered in my case and the over 900 people that I've talked to, they all have something in common. Your children were taken when they did not need to be. And you've had a difficult time getting your children back or do family reunification. Now, what I call the CPS, it's the Child Protection System. Every county, every state, and every country has an entity. And they're different from various to various. Like even in California, 2 counties side by side. Orange County is the Child Protection Services. LA is the Department of Children and Family Services. So whether you're in Arizona, Department of Children's Services, or Richmond, Kentucky, the cabinet, where you may be, right now, when I say CPS, I mean all of the child protection systems. Now, not all of them are bad, I say, but a lot of them are. And that's the problem you guys are faced with. They hit you when you're down on your luck. You may be struggling with no job, such was in my case, or maybe you lost your home because you had a hurricane come through and wash your home down the river, or you may be in the fires, your home was burned. The problem is that there are bad CPS systems out there, and they don't care if you have a disaster. They don't care about reunification. A lot of them are bad. A lot of them are bad. And it's so important that you get a tool that will help you. You have to get an attorney. And I'm talking about a professional licensed attorney in juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. A lawyer that knows how to fight CPS and win back children. That's what you need. Now, the attorney that sponsors this live stream is Vincent W. Davis. He is a juvenile law, family law, and dependency attorney. He's been getting kids back for over 39 years from the child protection system. He too was a foster care himself growing up. So he knows what foster care is all about and knows about how they're corrupt. Again, I'm not saying all foster care is corrupt or all CPS is corrupt, but a lot of them are. In my case, they were. They take the child when they're not in danger. That's the no-no. They're not supposed to do that. Also, all of you parents, including myself, didn't know all these things like don't talk to social workers. Don't let the social workers in your home. Don't talk to police. We all think we have to, but there's something, they have to have a court warrant before they can force you to do anything. Take your child, talk to you, or come into your home. They're fishing. Right now, either a lay person or a professional person is called in and made an accusation. Right away, the child protection system thinks you're guilty and will treat you like so. They will do an investigation, but it's also very slanted because a lot of the CP entities, what I call the child protection systems, are corrupt. They're doing it solely for the pleasure of money. They're not doing it to get your children back or do family reunification. And it's sad because that's what's taken possession of many of these CPS social workers. Now, Congress passed a law that said it mandated that within social services, the entity is created that will protect the children from neglect and abuse. That's where the CPS came from. It's a part of social services. And it is important to have. There's a lot of kids that need help. There's a lot of kids that don't have moms and dads that don't care. But I know my wife and I, when we had our kids stolen from, we did care. And we went through a very hellish time. And I will say some of that to you to help you understand. But they don't fight fairly. It's impossible to navigate them without the help of a professional attorney. And so I strongly urge you, if you haven't got one, you need to get one right away. And I have 5 rules. Besides rule number 1, get an attorney. Rule number 2 is do a notebook. Collect all your documents. Get a tab that you can organize your documents. And of course, got to get a hole puncher because you want to put them in a 3-ring binder. Also, you want to have those tabs that will separate the documents. And there's an important paper that you need to create. It's called the time log incident. Anytime you have an incident with the CPS or the police or the school or anybody else, you record it, you document it. And what you do is that you put the date, the time, and the people involved and the location where it was. That goes on the first line. On the second line, you create a 1 sentence that describes what the incident was about. And then with the third line, you correct another long sentence, that is refined to 1 sentence. What was the outcome? What was the outcome? And if you don't know the outcome, don't panic. You can get it later. Because so many of you don't have your documents. I was terrible about doing paperwork and hiring an attorney and trying to to see my kids because mine was a complex case. It was because it involved our children. And it's really hard when children are taken from you. Now, it's very important that you get an attorney because you need to have someone trained to work in that field. If you don't, they'll eat you up alive. If you try to pro se it or use a court-appointed attorney, you're going to have the worst of luck. The court-appointed attorney, they're not well trained. They're trained in criminal matters, but not in dependency matters. And they don't know the office layout, so they have a hard time coming aboard. But what I really want to emphasize that you do your utmost best to get yourself an attorney because they'll make a difference to you. They'll make a big, big difference. Now, there's 5 ways you can act with this podcast. The first way is just by being in this room and taking notes. Also, you can show emojis like smiley faces or hearts, or thumbs up. And it's very important that you know what to say and don't say. That's where the importance is, because a lot of us like to disclose stuff and you don't want to say it. You don't want to say it. Now, I put up a message on my screen that should help you a little bit. It's if you want to type a message, text a message or a comment about CPS. And it's all this whole room, and every day it's all pertaining to CPS. All I ask you to do is please show me your first name, the city or the county your case was in, and the state or country, and try to be complete with your CPS case. Like, tell how many kids you are. Was it a marriage? Was it a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship? And so that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. I'll suppress that so that you can see that my title of my show is up there right now. Now, you should all be settled in. And some of you may request other things you need, which is fine. This is an open forum podcast. You can talk about CPS and how it works or how it was helping you with your case. So, I'm looking for comments and questions, and I was thinking that we haven't done Core Digest in a while. Core's Digest in a while. So that's what I want to work on next, is something about Core's Digest. So I'm looking on my phone to see what I have. Okay. Okay. Now I have Core's Digest, and so what I would like to do is talk about Core's Digest. I subscribe to it, and we haven't talked about it in a while. So these are topics that are good to talk about your case. This first one is here. How should parents document their interactions with CPS worker? Now, this was answered by Emma over 10 years of studying CPS after they took her 2 kids. Parents should immediately start recording each and every interaction with CPS from start to finish. Do not tell them you're recording them. You don't have to tell them. It is not illegal to record the interaction with them. From the first phone call, the first time you're face to face with them, begin recording. Record every phone call, every court hearing you attend, every single things. This can save your family if they take your child away from you. I cannot express enough how important recording everything is. Has CPS already come to your home? If they haven't come to your home, do not let them in. Do not open the door to them either. Just talk to them through the door or on your Ring camera if you have one. Ask them to show their warrant. They must have to enter your home and see what they do. They'll pretend to have a warrant with them. If they do that, tell them to leave it with you in your mailbox or under your doormat, and you'll look it over and get back to them. I promise you that they'll not leave any warrant there for you to look at, because they actually had a warrant, they would have already come into your home with force. So please also take that into consideration depending on where you're at with everything. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask. Now, this person, Emma, says, I'm here to offer you the truth to the rights you have, your constitutional rights as a human being, as a parent. These CPS workers will manipulate and to get what they want, which is your child. They make lots of money taking children away from their parents. And it's disgusting that's still going on. I'm working on putting a stop to this illegal action. So they are trying to break families apart. So that was Emily talking about her interpretation. I say one of my rules, rule number 3, you do not talk to social workers and you don't let them in your home. Now, there's 4 ways to interact with this podcast. One is just by being in my room here and sending emojis such as thumbs up, smiley faces, or hearts, or even stars. Please check below to follow me, and then check the notification button if you want to be notified. Now, these comments are either a CPS comment or a CPS question, these text messages. Please show your first name and the city or the county you're from and your state. If you're from another country, please show that. And try to be complete with your case. Tell as much as you can. So here's one that Jim said. Is it legal for a police officer to use a drone to look into someone's home without a warrant or notification? I'm going to skip that one because that could be a criminal matter. So, okay, this one I've heard a lot of times. What is the process? And this is from Stephanie. What is the process when a parent called Child Protection Service on another parent? Now, that happens all the time. I was a substituting Sunday school teacher about 12 years ago. A family of children who were sloppily dressed had messy hair. Two of the six were pregnant, both far too young and possible not high functioning enough to realize what was happening to their boys. I made the decision to call everyone. I made the decision to call after everyone departed the church. A few days later, the local newspaper had reported that there was two minors impregnated and the family lived on the grounds of a federal prison. So I know my information led to arrest. The following Sunday, the mother came to church trying to figure out what she could do to get the children returned. The two girls remained with relatives. The rest were scattered and given up for adoption by the direction of the court. Months later, the mother's uncle came in snooping at church to see if anyone knew about it. I just stayed silent and kept to myself. The babies were eventually born, and the mother of the six posted on Facebook. I've since stopped attending the church. Well, that has a terrible ending. That has a terrible ending. Let me see if I can find another one there. Okay, here's one here. What constitutes imminent danger when CPS is removing children from home? Imminent danger constitutes in three categories: sexual assault to the child in the home, never feeding the child or taking care of the child, leaving the baby or the child out in the freezing cold weather and forgetting about them, which can kill them, according anything of that nature. It must be something that's huge in order to constitute an imminent danger. Not brushing your child's teeth once a week because you were busy and you forgot does not constitute imminent danger. Wearing the same shirt to school twice 1 week does not count. Does not count. Using alcohol on weekends and having a sitter watch your kids does not constitute. You go on and on and on. So what this person, Emma, was trying to say, I can understand where she's coming from. Now, I do want to say, besides texting, you could do something else, which is to be a guest on my podcast. To be a guest, all you would do is contact Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she will get you on the show. All you have to do is pick one of my 14 show times. I want to be on Bob's morning Sunday podcast, or I want to be on Bob's Saturday evening podcast, or Wednesday morning or Wednesday evening. You just tell them the time, email Grace at vincentwdavis.com, and she will get you on the show by giving you a link to StreamYard, which is the application that we use. Now, as far as what you can do on the live stream, is that Grace will tell you that. She'll tell you what you can do, the names or the talk or anything like that. She'll tell you what to do. Now, fourth way to interact with this podcast is to call me at 626-698-0990. My phone is live and I can take calls during my show times. I cannot take calls before or after my show times, but it's really important that you call in during the show, and I will try to help you and talk to you further about the case. But that is basically my number being out. It's basically you could call that number and you'd be connected. I use Vonage, which is a software application to use on my phone, which is a software application to use on my phone. Now, I want to thank Lori Hiller, who gave me a thumbs up. She's been on my podcast since 1923, October, when I first started. She hasn't really said much until about a month ago. She came on and did type some information about how bad her case is. She's from Canada, by the way. She's from Canada. And so she is all the time saying hi, and she had a terrible case, but she doesn't really want to talk about or discuss it. Doesn't want to talk about it or discuss it. Now I'm going to go back to the core digest. Okay. Now, I've lost my core digest here. Not that one. Oh, here it is. Here's a question from Lana, Lona. And she says, are you aware of any cases where CPS wrongfully took a child from a home such that it could be he could be called kidnapping? What were the grounds for taking the child away? Well, the answer to that question, there was this response. My 15-year-old daughter and her sister did not come home from school. I worked until 5:30 and had no idea. The boys didn't call me at work. I got home, called the police, and told them that my girls were missing. The police showed up at my house with CPS, who told me my daughters went home to the wife of a friend of ours, and you should let them stay there for now until we figure all this out. Oh, are there charges? Well, no. So you're telling me that she kidnapped our children, and you're assuring you're assisting that there's no charges, no investigation, no court order. Well, guess we have to get that by the end of the week. My girls were gone 2 weeks with the alcohol buddy of my husband and his bartender wife. Why? My 15-year-old had gotten pregnant and didn't want to tell her dad. She wanted to be so far along before he found out that we couldn't take her for abortion. We never would have. She was trying to leverage her sister as collateral. I sent her home. If you let me move out, fine. Don't expect us to pay your bills. Your daughter was home that night. Older daughter moved in with her boyfriend 3 months later. They're living with us. They couldn't afford the apartment that the kidnapping social worker and Fred had gotten them unless we paid for it. Social workers likely got fired after the investigations. Friend's wife all burned our daughter's belongings and my wedding dress. Nearly went to prison. The only reason she isn't in jail is because her dad goes hunting with the judge. Oh boy, that's a sad story. I mean, when you read something like that, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible there. Now, here's a pretty good question that makes you think about things. What do you do if someone keeps calling child protection services on you? Um, this was answered by a guy named Kevin. Cooperating with them is the dumbest advice possible. They came when I was at work, so my girlfriend, being the good little rule follower, she let them in. And she let them in, and what'd she do? She let them in and let them talk to the kids. Her mistake was thinking that these were reasonable people. Was thinking that these were reasonable people. That was about 3 months ago, and I just had to have the police escort people away from the house again. All of her cooperation was met with further demands and harassment, sending us taunting messages and requests to bring our kids to a home for neglected and abused children. That was it for me. I'm not going to be intimidated by these welfare people. After cooperating clearly didn't work, we switched to my approach, which is a combine a combative and hostile to them as possible. These are emotional people and they hate to lose. Watch this angry woman leave empty handed even after she called the cops was a wonderful sight to behold. There was no no way back this time. The more they came back, the more of a document that was closed in hands. Now, I want to welcome some people that came into my room. I'm doing Core's Digest. I haven't done it in a while. Hello, Kevin Nash. My kid's been looking have been taken illegally by SCAR, and I need help. I assume SCAR stands for something. SCAR. And what help do you need, Calvin? And also, where are you located? What city or state or country are you in? And hello, Betty. Welcome, Betty. Betty is from Montana. She's a foster care mom. She just adopted her son's child, her niece, into her family. And she just did the last couple of days where she drove down to Nebraska and drove home with her daughter or niece that she's adopting. And she's going to try to raise the child. Now, the brother of hers isn't too good off. He had a job but lost it. He's back to living in a car with drugs. So until he gets his act together, he's going to have a very difficult seeing. The mother, by the way, has gone off the deep end and she's disappeared on him. She has disappeared. So the grandparent is going to take care of the niece. She is going to help out her brother. So, Betty, it's been a week now with your niece. How's it going? How's she adapting to you? Um, Everything going good? Any questions you may have about your case, or you need some help about something? Now, Betty is saying something right now. Here, let me see what Betty has to say. I got to tell you that it's not my grandbaby, it's my brother's daughter. Yes, I said that it's your niece and that it's your brother's daughter. So it makes it my niece. I don't know why you keep on my story mixed up with anybody else's. I'm not trying to, Betty. I did say it's your brother's child, it's your niece, and you have guardianship. I try to be very careful. I'm sorry, Betty, if I'm not phrasing it right. I'm trying my best to remember over the hundreds and hundreds of people that have called in here on a regular basis. I introduce you as a foster mom from Montana. That is a good foster mother that likes to take children in. So I'm glad that you're in my show repeatedly all the time, Betty. And I'm so happy you have your niece with you. I'm so happy you have your niece. I may have slipped up saying your grandbaby by mistake. I know that I meant to say your niece, but I thought I did say your niece a couple times. I may have slipped up. I'm not perfect, Betty. I'm trying my best to do this podcast. And I'm trying to talk about cases of other people. That's why I start off with Cora Digest. Now, Cora Digest has some interesting stories, so I'll try to relate to them. Now, here is a message from Carol who said, what happens when Child Protection Services comes to your house for an anonymous tip that neglect is occurring in the household, but nothing was found upon the inspection? Do they leave immediately or ask a question first? Well, let's read this further. It says, I called CPS on my best friend's mom because she was buying drugs rather than food. A couple days after my anonymous report, agents came to their place while I happened to be on the phone with my beastie. She knew right away what was going on and hissed at me saying, you did this? Hold on, I'm trying to find it here. Oh boy, I've lost the. Okay. I thought I had it here, but I somehow have lost. I'll find it here. Well, here's another one. This one here is, have you ever adopted an older child from foster care and how did it work out? Well, Stephen Allen answered, I am a widower and adopted my son when he was 15. He had 2 failed adoptions. Upon his 3rd visit, he and I called his caseworker and she asked if we could move up the time. Move up the timetable for his adoption. At this time, neither of us knew the other hand had called this caseworker. It took him a year to realize that he wasn't going anywhere. I asked him why he thought he could. He said, well, everyone else has thought he would. He just said everyone else has gotten tired of me and got rid of me. I figured you would be as well. I would tell him time and time again, I'm not everyone else. I'm your dad and you're not going anywhere. After a year, when he started to call me dad, he told me he liked to have someone to call dad. I told him I like having someone to call my son. He is my son, and I'm almost his dad. And that is that. As you can tell, it worked out great for both of us. I do believe in God had his hands in this. I say so because for almost after 4 years of looking for his son to adopt, it seemed like I took 1 step forward and 2 steps back. When I met my son, things happened very fast. I told my case manager things are happening so fast that I'm not going to hang on. And I hope this answers your question there. Well, that was really beautiful. Okay. Well, here's one from Jesus. He says, does Child Protection Services make money for every child they put into foster care system? Now, I have 4 kids myself, a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And they were taken out of my house due to I had a drug problem. I went to rehab for 9 months in California, still clean a year later, doing my AA meetings and compliance with the DCF worker. But it's determined to take her kids. She's not going to reunite us together. She said, now the foster parents that have the kids, if they don't like what you say, or if you're not going to give them what to say, okay. So she said now the foster parents, they have the kids, they don't like what you said, or if you don't give them back what they want, they'll cut your visits and block your number so you don't speak to kids. Also, tell the kids that mom and dad are drug addicts and you never get well, so they don't need to speak to them. So those kids are scared and repeat everything the foster mom says. We have had let the DCF work or no, but to no. Help, it was in a court case for visits over the phone. Now, further said, work or no, but do not know, help. It was a court order for visits over the phone. And like I said, she's angry. or don't like what you say. She'll block your calls. I haven't spoke to my kids in 7 months. Today they say they hate me. They don't want me to talk to me. I love my kids. They love me the day I even doing parenting classes, domestic classes. By um, and I guess because I have a disease, I'm not worthy of my kids. That's why she always sees her name. And she called me one afternoon around 7 to 9, I guess it's p.m., after work hours for her and said to me, I'll never get my kids back. At that time, I was using drugs. I was a mess. I lost an 8-year-old son. I lost my mind that year. And on top of all that, they took my kids. Thank you. If you take the time to read this and you have any suggestions, feel free to leave me a comment. Thank you and God bless. That wasn't a too happy one. That was not a too happy one there. Hello, Ashley, and welcome, Ashley. I'm so glad you came here. Lori Waitwin, Tetterbag Tijuana. I have no idea. Lori, I need to know where you're from. It looks like you're from Tijuana, Mexico. What is your case? This is Lars Watwin, who has texted in. I want to help you, Lars Wallen. And also Ashley Lincoln. And hello, nice hello there. And Betty, do you have a question you want to ask the room? Do you have a question or do you have something you want to share? I'd asked you earlier how your niece was doing and how the the transition from Nebraska to Montana is going on. I was hoping you'd be able to tell me. Now we have several people in the room. We have Loris Warwin, Ashley Lincoln, Betty Joe from Montana, and Calvin Nash. You're more than welcome in my podcast. I'd like you to share your story here in this room here so I can help you all and other people may have a similar case can talk about your case. All right, the comments have stopped for a bit. I guess we go back to Core's Digest and talk some more about CPS cases here. I do have to end my podcast at 8 o'clock. And as I look at my clock now, it's almost 8 o'clock now. So I like to end my podcast and say thank you to Lauren Walwin of Tijuana, Mexico, Betty of Montana, from there, Calvin Nash, and I have no idea where you're from, but I appreciate you all taking the time to be in my room. And this is a live podcast, and I'm glad you found it. So I want you all to keep fighting for your children. Do not give up. I've had a lot of people call and come in here and tell me the advice I've given has helped them. So God bless you all. And this is Bob Pace signing off. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. That's the West Coast of California. Good night and take care.